How do we create a culture? The first thing we do is we have to understand that people learn it through socialization. And that socialization, roughly defined, is how do we teach people what's done here? Okay, and the book says that there are 3 stages to it. I'm not sure that it's as technical as they put it, but it's what the book says, so let's learn it. The pre-arrival stage. This is selecting people. This is hiring. This is the people that are going to be coming into your organization. Before they've even arrived there, what kind of people are you picking? How adaptable are they? This is what's going to create an environment where people are going to be learning the corporation. And it's going to matter how willing to learn your culture they are, to how successful that's going to be. The second is the encounter stage. Right? This is when they're first getting to know you. This is, did you scare them off? Do they not come back? They're not going to be joining your culture in that point. And your culture is going to have an effect on them, positive or negative. Okay? And their ability to learn it from those first few moments and to accept it and want to be a part of it matters. Okay? And the metamorphosis stage. The metamorphosis stage assumes they stuck around long enough to be a part of it, and now they're adapting to it. Now they are changing themselves. They're changing the way they work to be successful within your corporation. Okay? And assuming they were the type that could, how does that look? How successful are they in integrating themselves? And that is what the socialization part, the learning part of being a part of your culture and how your culture is going to adapt over time. Who do you hire? How adaptable are they? Are they able to read and understand your culture and get to know it? Do they go right away screaming? And how do they change themselves and the way they work to make it successful? That's the process people are going to be going through. Okay? How do people learn cultures? The socialization process, those stages of how are people actually learning it? They're hearing stories. Stories are a big part of it. Okay? And if your corporation has sort of a founding story, that might be helpful in instructing that. People listen to those things. Rituals. What do we do every day? What do we do? Do we stop everything to do? What do we put emphasis on through some sort of a party or some sort of a daily thing that we do that drives the way people interpret their work environment? Material symbols. How does everything look? What's the visual? Are things lavish? Are we trying to be a real estate agent that makes that look successful, so therefore people think he or she will be successful? Are we trying to be sparse and that we're trying to show that, hey, this is a corporation where we don't waste things? How do things look? Because the visuals matter. Okay? Language. What kind of language do we use? And I'm not talking about Inupiat versus English. I'm talking about the way we phrase things, the word choices we do. Are we positive? Are we negative? Are we expansive? Are we very constrictive? Are we? How are we going about selecting the words that we're selecting? People will notice, and people will adapt and try to match that with their own actions. Okay. Now, if we're going to create a culture, it's important that we create an ethical culture. How do we do that? First of all, management, ownership, founders, whomever has that role, needs to be a visible role model. They need to be out there for others to see and to be doing the right thing, because others will see them as the example and will copy their way of behaving. We need to communicate our ethical expectations. People shouldn't have to guess. People should be able to know what to do, know what's expected from them. And, people have a funny way of doing exactly what's expected from them. Hey, we need to provide ethical training. Okay? When situations are ambiguous, we need to give people the training that they need to know what to do. If we see lapses in ethics, we need to be on that and teaching them what it is we expect from them. We need to visibly reward ethical behaviors and punish unethical ones. And I think that's fairly obvious why that would matter. And finally, we need to provide protective mechanisms. And what that means is we need to set up an environment where people are allowed to be ethical, where it's people don't need to be scared to tell on others when they're doing something that's unsafe, or criticize a process that really is dangerous and doesn't and hurts the customers. Okay? And speaking of customers, the other part that, besides being ethical, that's very important is we need to make sure that we're responsive to customers. How do we do that? What goes into that process of whether we are an organization that responds to its customers? First of all, we've talked about this in a lot of the videos here. Selection of employees. What kind of people do you hire? What kind of people represent your company? Matters so much. And, you can't teach someone something they don't want to learn. So, who you hire matters. Training and socialization. We've talked about both of them already this time, but you can train people to be better with customers. You can all act that way. You can verbally reward it. You can create an environment where people are able to learn the skills to be successful with customers, and that it's the thing to do. It's seen as who we are. Okay, and you as the management define whether that's part of your corporation. We can reward structure. Let me try that again. We can design a reward structure that gives people money, whatever, praise. We can set up our rewards. We can set up incentives that reward people for being good with customer service. You'll see employees of the month, or certain companies offer, trips or small amounts of money to people who are particularly successful with customers. People see that, they want to be that. Okay, and it's not even usually about the monetary value. It's the prestige that comes with that people want. Empowerment. What this means is that we need to give our employees, our people who are working with the customers, the ability to make things right. That they can change things, that they can fix things for customers and not need to worry about looking over their shoulder. And finally, leadership. How do we treat the people that we interact with? What do we say? How do people see us as managers? Do we see us looking down on customers, thumbing our noses at them or talking down about them when they're not there, or are we acting like we revere them? Okay. People's impressions of our actions will matter. Okay. Finally, it talks about creating a spiritual workplace. And when we talk about this, we're not talking about a religious thing. Spiritual as in just a certain spirit to the place, a certain feeling the place exudes. Okay, and what does this mean? What effect does this have? And we talked about it conveys a strong sense of purpose. Okay? That purpose may differ for the organization, but it's conveying the strong sense that's going to guide people's actions. Okay? It focuses on individual development. When you have a culture, especially a culture that's very pro-employee, people will feel like they can develop their skills and want to develop their skills to help make the organization more successful. These type of organizations exude trust and respect. Trust and respect is just part of what that organization is. Everybody feels it, and that makes them less fearful, and fearful people do things that are illogical. So avoiding fear is good. Okay. They use humanistic workplace practices. Okay? They treat people like people, not like cogs, not like robots, but like people. People like to be treated like people. And finally, there's tolerance for employee expression. And what does that mean? Well, what that means is that people are allowed to be different. People are allowed to make what seem like good decisions to them. That people are allowed to find the good in other people that may not be scripted into exactly what they're supposed to be doing, but really matches what we want to accomplish as an organization. So that's the end of the second video, and if you're watching this, you're pretty near the end of the class, and I hope you've enjoyed it.